The knob on top of the handle controls the direction of chip ejection. The chip ejector attachment fits over the opening on either side and screws in. The ejector is sized for the 36mm hose, which is what you will want given the volume of material this tool can eject. Notice that the HL850 does not use the plug-it cord that many other Festool tools do. Its power cord is permanently attached. Depth of cut is controlled at the front of the tool next to the handle. The green lever locks the height adjustment in place, and the dial shows its current setting. The depth is minutely adjustable between 1/10 of a millimeter and 3.5 millimeters. From the side, you can see the front plate raise and lower as the handle is adjusted. The tool is also equipped with a guard for the cutting head, which you can see is being manually held up for a better view. Changing the cutter head requires that we first remove the chip ejector so that the guard can swing all the way up and out of the way. Notice there is a bolt and 2 washers holding the cutter head in. Be very careful of the blade on the cutter head as you remove it from the tool. The green button opposite the guard side of the tool will lock the arbor in place and prevent the cutter head from spinning. Hold that in place while you use the included Allen wrench to loosen the bolt in the middle of the cutter head. Remove the bolt, and then subsequently remove the 2 washers that are holding the cutter head in place. One washer sits in a recess in the cutter head and usually needs to be removed by hand. Many cutter heads are available from Festool. Here I'll be replacing the rustic cutter head that I just removed with the straight cutter head. You can see side by side the rustic on the bottom and the straight cutter head on the top. Notice the curve on the side of the rustic cutter head and the curve of the blade, which leaves a very interesting rough texture. The straight cutter head is flat with a very straight blade. Replacing the cutter head is much like removing it. We hold the green button on the opposite side of the tool in place. Note the direction that the cutter head will turn and place it back into the tool. Replace the washers and hand tighten the bolt. Snug the bolt back up with the Allen wrench, making sure it is in fairly securely. Release the button and allow the guard to close. The HL850 has a number of attachments that can be used. For example, the parallel fence, which screws into the base of the tool and will allow you to maintain a nice square edge if you were going to edge joint a board, for example. You can set the distance, limiting the amount of the cutter head that is exposed. And there's a small notch in the parallel fence that will prevent it from contacting the cutter head, even when it is over the cutter head. There's a small threaded hole next to the cutter head guard where we could thread in a depth adjustment for rabbiting. The rabbet depth adjustment has a distance scale on it in millimeters. The base of the tool also has a built-in guide for doing an edge chamfer on a board. The chamfer guide holds the tool at a 45-degree angle and allows us to make a nice clean pass on the edge of a workpiece. The finish is smooth and very consistent across the length of the board. Here I have a piece of 8/4 hard maple with a rough edge. I have a face that I know is flat, so I've attached the parallel guide to the 850. I have the depth of cut set very low, and I will take a few passes to get a nice clean cut. You can see as the tool passes over, the edge gets cleaner and cleaner with each pass. One more pass should do it. And that's a very nice finish. We're left with an edge that's very straight and also perpendicular to the flat face we started with. Oftentimes in the course of making end grain butcher blocks, I have need to level pieces of material before my final sanding. This isn't really safe to do on the normal stationary planer as we have end grain facing up, and sanding takes quite some time. So again, with a very shallow depth of cut, I'm going to make just a couple gentle passes over this board. The finish isn't perfectly smooth, but we'll be going over this with a sander anyway. The key is that there aren't any ridges between the pieces of material. Do it lightly and with a shallow depth of cut. That will prevent tear out at the end of the workpiece. This piece of hard maple, I'm going to use one of the rustic cutter heads, which I've put in the 850. And I'm going to make a couple of gentle passes over the face to give it a distressed look. This can make a very nice tabletop, mantle, and so on.